Welcome everybody to the Noob Stream Game Clinic. This is our sixth game clinic. I have been doing these and will continue to do them where I work with a player and we go over a replay and everybody tries to learn and get better from that. So this game we'll have Trojan Horse playing the Anti-Mage. Welcome Trojan Horse.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And so go ahead and press play in 3, 2, 1. So you picked the Anti-Mage this game. I noticed you started with a little bit less gold. So if you'd like to give me some background about this game.
Well, to be honest, I forget why I started with a little bit less gold. It was a couple days ago, so I don't exactly remember.
Was this a ranked game or?
Yes, I think it was ranked.
Okay, and do you usually like what's your role or in experience with Dota?
Well, I've been playing since just before TI3, so that's probably about a year and a half. And I have about 1,400 games played in that time. So I played quite a bit in that year, but I'm nowhere near good.
I see. Well, everybody makes mistakes and there's plenty to learn.
Yeah.
So looking at your early item choice, I think you got a pretty standard item choice. You have some regen with you. It looks like
This, my friends, is in the bag.
it looks like you're gonna have the lion babysitting you, or no? What's going on up here?
This this game was a pretty tough lane. To be honest, I was facing a clock and a drow. The lion was babysitting me, but he ended up dying a couple times, and there wasn't a lot I could do to save him, in my opinion. So that the lane was difficult right from the start. I could tell.
Okay, and that does seem to be a bit of a tougher offering. Here's one of the things when you pick certain heroes, like Anti-Mage is kind of an example of this, Brood and others. Certain heroes just draw hate from the other team, like they just absolutely, like deplore playing against you. So you might get a bit harder lane than usual, because usually I would expect it to just be the clockwork in the off lane. But this game, they're bringing multiple people up there to try to slow you down, looks like.
Yeah, you see, like this happened from the beginning. I knew with the lion getting cogged, it wasn't going to be fun.
So, in this situation, I think you have multiple approaches or multiple ways to go. The one approach you can do is just scrap the standard Battle Fury farming build that all anti-mages get, and just say, screw it, I'm gonna go a fighting build. That's one way to do it if you're not expecting a great babysit. But I think you guys are actually looks like you're doing okay here because you have the clockwork harass down.
Yeah.
You did put your first point in Mana Break. I think most people put it in Blink just in case, but it's not a bad idea initially because you're not expecting them to have kill potential on you, and you can immediately harass them down. So I like that.
Yeah. I do like the Mana Break for the harass if you don't need it for escape immediately.
Yeah. I do want to pick just a few small nits here. I think early on in the creep wave, early on when there's some harassment going on, you kind of hovered around the lane a little bit, not sure if you should help your lion or not. I would argue that at that time you might as well just ignore what's happening with him, because either he's not going to die, which ended up being the case, or he's going to die and there's nothing you could do about it because you're level 1 anti-mage. So you might as well just be greedy and just pick up the few extra creep kills before this drow starts getting levels. Because this lane becomes dangerous for you once, like, obviously Clock gets his ultimate and once drow gets a couple levels up, because before she gets her ult, her, like, damage and attack is pretty pitifully, like, slow. So if she focuses on harassing you, she's not even going to farm her own, like, items that much. So yeah, I think, like, Anti-Mage is one of those heroes where, like, when you're counting on a snowball build from, like, Battle Fury or something, every second of farm that you can get, or every creep you get, counts, because it gets you that much closer to beginning the snowball.
Right.
I do like your build here. I don't know what your ultimate skill build is going to be. I guess we're going to find out in a couple minutes. But what you'll see some anti-mages do, especially in a tougher lane, if they're still going Battle Fury, is they'll only put 1 point in Mana Break, Blink, and Spell Shield.
And do stats, yeah.
Yeah, because you're getting, like, the value point from the Spell Shield, 26%. In this case, like, you don't even need it that much because there isn't that much magic damage coming at you. But yeah, that point is good. So is that what you ended up doing this game?
Honestly, I don't remember. We'll see.
Okay. Um, there doesn't seem to be a ward here. I'm not sure if you knew that, so I would have liked to see you, since you were in an advantageous position to do so, pull that creep wave up there from the neutrals.
Yeah, I think I ended up pulling this one.
You pulled this one, okay.
Yeah.
What you can do, I'm sure you're aware of this, is you could pull the camp up here, and then when that camp is about to die, go pull the big camp, and it'll come directly. Oh, so you'll be able to pull both camps, kind of. And,
Right.
It's a bit further, and you're pulling them through your woods instead of through the middle of the lane, so it's a bit harder for them to contest.
I was a little late for that one though.
Okay. And you spent your gold. I didn't see on.
It's on the courier,
courier.
but the mid's taking the courier. I haven't got boots and the power man shield.
Dire's middle tower is under
Okay.
I think
The
lion ends
just
up
a quick
going down
note,
here.
I'm sure you're aware of this. Yeah, he got caught out. Is that you can buy the slippers of agility from
Dire's
the
middle
secret
side
tower
shop,
is
yeah.
under
Yeah.
attack.
So, I mean, you probably didn't feel totally safe going there, just in case something was going on. But you could do that, and that'll make things faster. And I do like your choice here of getting the poor man shield to deal with harass. Some anti-mages can be afforded the luxury of going greedy because they're not being harassed, but I like that you didn't do that knowing that you would be harassed here. So here you decided to... Okay.
Is silence.
Alright, so that was nice. You comboed up with the Doom and you went and got a kill out of the lane, and I think that second point in Mana Break actually helped you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, this is one thing as well. The thing is, Anti-Mage is usually not suited for fighting early, but depending on lane and depending on whether you get a situation that allows you to do it, then, yeah, it's nice to just add kills and slow down the harass
Right.
and slow down the opponent. So, that's good. I think I like your item choice because I think you sensed that you still had some regen that you hadn't used early and you didn't need it immediately, so maybe the Ring of Health wasn't, like, totally urgent of a pickup for you. So, I do like that. So are you going to be going straight for Battle Fury here, or are you going to get treads, or what?
I think I picked the treads. Pick up the treads first.
Okay. So, I like everything, basically, that you've done so far, and that's the thing I want to point out to anti-mage players is a lot of times you'll see people go extremely greedy, and it will cost them, because they just can't fight earlier. They just die too easily to pick off, especially a team that's more aggressive in picking you off. So, I like the choices that you made. You did put all your points into skills, so that I might wonder about, because it might help you even more if you didn't do that. But I think if there is one thing that you do choose to skill, it's probably the blink, because that allows you to get off multiple blinks. It'll be great against the clockwork and the drought, because if they go on you, let's say with like the clockwork hook or the drought silence, you'll get off that second blink sooner. Alright, so you're getting a gank from the offlaner here, and I would say that this lane at this point is going pretty well for you, because you are getting some help from the Doom and and the Skywrath just now, and you've managed to, like, your Lion has died, but you've managed to participate in 2 kills to help your gold and experience a little bit. So
Dire's bottom tower is
yeah, this is kind of the thing about Anti-Mage, right? When you play a hero like that, it's kind of a liability. Like, your team has to protect you a little bit, unless you're going like a fighting build. So I've seen people, especially Slasher, a famous old school Dota player, they go treads earn, right? I'm not sure if you've seen that.
Yeah, on Spectre.
Yeah, or even on Anti-Mage.
Oh, really?
He goes that build.
Oh, wow.
I think it's well, but yeah, because he just hates being like a liability, he says, and he wants to fight instead. I mean, I would just argue why pick the Anti-Mage if you plan to do that. But
Yeah. Fair point.
it's a viable way to play it. In a league game, I've actually seen a team run a solo Anti-Mage against Tide, and they didn't go Battle Fury at all. He just stacked up on Wraith Bands, went Vanguard and Crimson Guard into Assault. So it's
Alright.
interesting. You might get flamed in pub games if you do that. Just be like, this AM's garbage, what's he doing?
Is under attack.
So yeah, I think just some efficiency things here. Even if they had warded, you would have expected the first ward to expire about 6 minutes, and usually teams won't place a second ward to block your camps. So that's just one safe source of farm that you can use, that you can like maximize or just annoy them or interrupt them or make them show where they are. It's just like it really just comes down to efficiency. All of Dota you can kind of just put into efficiency, right? Like, are you still getting golden experience to the maximum amount possible given your situation? And
Right.
you are getting some last hits here, but that's just something that I want to point out, that if you can pull or you can stack, then just try to do it because it gives you more.
Right. I do need to work on that, like keeping my like always doing something. I do find myself standing around sometimes when I probably shouldn't be.
Tis not for thee.
Yeah, and the lane's starting to get kind of dangerous here because Drow has 6, so she hurts, and the Clockwork is about to have 6, so they have
Yeah.
ways of locking you down and killing you. Another thing to watch out for, as the Anti-Mage, especially if you're facing a rough lane, is if you see opportunities to go elsewhere and get farm, then seize that and do it. Like, make them rotate, make them either ignore you or rotate with you. You know, like, just basically make the decision that seizes the initiative and force them to respond to it.
Right.
Because
I
here's
think
the, yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
Oh, well, what I was gonna say is I usually try to start doing that a little bit later in the game, once I feel a little bit more safe about getting my levels of blink up to like have that escape. But right now I was pretty scared, honestly, so I didn't want to go too far away from this safe zone.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say, that I would emphasize, actually, this is almost a new meta type of thing, but it's really not, is so that if you leave this lane alone, or if you're gone, the tower will get taken down, obviously, because it's a drow. Sometimes you almost want that to happen, because
Okay.
like if your tower drops, like obviously it's gold and it helps the other team, right?
Dire's middle
It makes
tower
it
is
so that
under attack.
your creeps don't have an automatic pushback point at the tower. It means
Oh,
that
right.
it's quite possible that the lane ends up
You'll have to
being
do better than
pushed
that.
closer to your tier 2 tower. So that makes it like it's much harder for them to control that area, just because naturally your rotations and your heroes are much closer. And it also opens the possibility of you like static farming it and holding the wave by your tier 2 tower. So some cases it's hard to say that you want people to give people towers, but it's not a bad thing necessarily to give them that tower, because you can take advantage of it
Right.
and control that part of the map.
Killing spree.
So you're still going for a Battle Fury at this point?
Yes. Which in hindsight might not have been a great idea, because my team was dying all over the place.
Yeah, your team is struggling quite a bit, it looks like, and it's gonna be, at this rate, just because of how difficult the lane was. I mean, you have managed 45 CS, which is not bad, but you're on pace for,
Dire's middle tower
if you
has
get left
fallen.
free farm, it's probably gonna be like a 16-17 minute Battle Fury. If not, it might be even later than that. So
Dire's bottom tower is under
I'm
attack.
not sure. I mean, getting a Vanguard could help you against their lineup, because again, you have natural resistance to magic damage, which is most of their burst, and the Vanguard helps you with like the Drow, it helps you with their right clicks, and it might allow you to fight them. If you do choose to go straight for the Battle Fury as you did, it's kind of like a calculated risk, and in some cases, as you see, your TA here is did the trademark
Yeah.
negativity. In some cases, people feel that if you do have to go Vanguard or something, then you've already kind of lost the game. But I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think you guys have some good setup and some good burst, and the AM, since you did max the mana break, does a decent amount of damage early, like surprisingly more than people give them credit for, especially if they're focusing you and you have more effective HP.
Double damage.
Yeah.
Are you usually a carry player?
I try to play like what the team needs. Like usually I let the rest of the team pick first. And then, take a mid player if there's mid hero if there's not a mid hero taken already. But I do like carry the best.
Killing spree.
Okay, so I mean, that's
whatever
already
reason.
great. Like, you're already a net plus to the Dota scene, because there are people, and we've all seen them, they're so stubborn, they only take whatever role. They might even throw games if they don't get what they want. So you're not part of that problem for sure, and you're willing to fill what the team needs. So I like that, and anybody who helps the community or helps make games more enjoyable is, I'm glad that you've adopted that mindset.
Awesome.
Dire's
Dire's bottom tower is under
See, so you guys are going for
Dire's
gank up
structures
here. So
are fortified.
one thing that I've noticed that you've been doing is I think you guys should be able
Dire's
to mount
bottom
the kill here.
tower is under
Rest gets
attack.
help. Is that you have been blinking into the engagements.
I admired you.
I think depending on the
Dire's bottom
situation,
tower
you
has
might want to be
fallen.
more careful with that and save your blink. The reason is because if you blink into an engagement and it ends up being something that is unfavorable to you, then you have to wait for the entire cooldown of the blink to get away.
Right.
So against like Drow or
Radiant's
whatever,
top
she's
tower
probably
is
going to
under
silence you
attack.
anyway, so you wouldn't get to blink out
Radiant's
immediately, but
structures are
that silence
fortified.
is shorter than the cooldown on your blink, especially if you go for a build where you only put fewer points into blink early in favor of stats. Just generally speaking, blinking into stuff exposes you more than if you just walk in first. And
Right.
then
I see what you're
blink.
saying.
Yeah. In the case of Drow, you might actually have to do it your way, because if you walk in, she will push you back with the silence and deal a ton of damage to you. So you might have to start in blinked on top of her. But generally speaking, you don't want to give away. You want to save your mobility spell in reserve for getting out of a situation when you can just walk in and attack them.
Right. It's probably a similar thing with Clockwork too, because he can just cog you.
Yeah, exactly. Then like if you've blinked already, you have to take the damage from like the cogs and all of that, and then when you blink out, he still has his hook. Versus if
Exactly.
you blink out immediately, he has to pretty much use his hook immediately, and it's just less. You take less damage basically.
So it looks like they're grouping up for the tower.
Yeah.
Um,
This is another situation where I probably just, especially because you do have blink leveled up, I'd probably just head for the bottom, because I
Yeah.
figure if they want the tower, they got 3. There's nothing I could
Dire's
do
bottom
whatsoever.
tower is under
You
attack.
did get some farm here out of the jungle, so I like that. But generally speaking, in these kinds of games, I wouldn't
Dire's
consider it
top tower
totally
is
lost at this
under
point,
attack.
because your team has some like very strong single target
Dominating.
heroes, and you know it's still pretty early. But what you need to be doing is exerting pressure on the other lane and forcing them to rotate to it. And that's hard sometimes without getting caught and just being like killed, but
That's alright.
and so I'd probably have gone to the bottom here, or even gone to the mid. And
Yeah,
then
I see.
the idea is not to just force the split push, but it's to push until they show their hand, like until you see TPs or you see whoever's there, and then you make a decision based on that. Situation you're in right now, I'm not sure if this is gonna be your first death. Nice
No,
play
I
there,
get to the
Tetris.
trees and escape, I think.
It's a nice heads up play there using the fog in the trees. Is if you get in a situation where you're revealed on the map and you don't know where they are, then you're kind of just setting up the possibility of them coming and killing you. Versus, there's a fine line, but there's a difference between that and forcing them to show themselves on the map by pressuring an objective.
Right, I think I go bottom now.
Dire's top tower is under
But the
attack.
Dragon Knight was there, and I end up running away because he's does more damage than I thought he could do. Actually,
I see.
I think I try manning up, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, you probably can't kill him at this point because his so I don't know if do you click on the heroes before you ult them, or
I probably should do that more.
that's a hard thing to do because it's like mechanically like multitasking, but some heroes you can just naturally think about, like Dragon Knight doesn't have a big mana pool, so your ult is very unlikely to kill him, especially at level 1, unless he's like very low.
Excuse you.
Yep. Still coughing my lungs out here. So what you could have done a little bit better in a situation, I think I would have just walked in straight at him and tried to burn out his mana for the Dragon Tail. And then after that, I probably wouldn't trade hits with him anymore because he has like a ton of armor and some pretty solid damage once you've burned all his mana. Basically, burning all his mana, it's worth trading some HP for, because then you've eliminated him as a threat to kill you, because he doesn't have like enough mana regen or mana items to be able to like instantly get that mana back and try to hurt you again. So I think down there, based on the map movements, you probably could have stayed down there. One thing that is
Yeah.
happening is your team is pushing together as 4.
Right.
So what that means is they're either going to ignore your team, or they'll get some pickoffs as they did there, or they're going to respond in force to your team. And if they choose to respond in force, as they let's say like clearly are gathering to do based on the dire vision, that's your cue to continue pushing and pressuring towers. Right now, you
Right.
could either be bottom or top, and like you could stay bottom there, knowing that the threat of DK stunning you is gone. So, you can kind of say, all right, where's their team? Their team's mid. DK can't kill me by himself because he doesn't have enough damage. So let me just keep pressuring a tower, top or bottom right now. So, I think that's just it's kind of just the min-maxing your map presence and the pressure that you put on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what happened was I saw DK, but the rest of them were off the map, even though my team was mid. So that kind of scared me off. Even though, since my team was mid, I guess I could have assumed that they were mid too, to defend that.
I see. Another thing you can pay attention to is, in this game, you notice right now, looking at all of the Radiant heroes, I don't think a single one of them has a TP. You can't see all of that because your vision doesn't cover all of that, although you can see some of it. Make a habit of clicking, when you can, clicking on enemy heroes and seeing things like their mana pool, whether they have a TP or not. If they don't have a TP, and you last saw them on the opposite side of the map, then obviously you don't have to worry as much about them coming after you because they don't have a vehicle of getting there quickly. So that's one thing to pay attention to. Obviously the mana pool is, obviously pay attention to who are the good targets for your mana void, like who has like a huge mana pool, AoE, who you can kill. So a lot of that comes with experience, but also if you start having an idea of what to expect, I think one player I saw recently who made a post about this calls it like a model of the game, in the sense of like just having expectations for what should be happening and what you can do. Then you can make information that's right or wrong based on that. You can make decisions that are right or wrong based on that, and you can gather information that helps add to your model, so to speak.
I see. Yeah, that's something I need to work on. Definitely like kind of seeing how the game works in kind of a grander sense as opposed to hero by hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that takes that information isn't mutually exclusive. Like it takes a lot of experience and time to do that because you have to account for skill levels too. Honestly, like you can expect people to do certain things at this skill level that they might not at a different skill level, and that makes things even harder because I feel like what happens a lot. Are you comfortable sharing your MMR?
Sure. So right now I'm at oh, it's really bad. I've lost like so many games in the last couple of days, but it's at like I think 2,900. But the highest I got over the summer when like I wasn't in school and playing a lot, I got up to 34, but it's gone down a lot since then, for whatever reason.
I see. So I think this is a perfect example because I think it's around that MMR range that people who quote unquote escape it or get past it, they have this tendency of they do it usually on high impact like carry or mid heroes because they're used to either supports playing poorly or them supporting other players and players not coming through. So what that ends up creating is it creates a lot of like bad habits and expectations based on that skill range, where once those people get up into like the low 4Ks or high 3Ks, they don't see the value of support because it hasn't been valuable to them. So they only know how to play like a certain pool of like carries or mids, and that just makes them sometimes very toxic to play with, or you can't get a balanced team out of that. So that's one of those things where I see a lot of players just don't make that adjustment because they don't have the balanced skills really to get anything out of it. Here's a fight going on in the mid that
yeah, I think I try to come to it.
Okay, yeah, there you are. This is another small thing in a matter of reaction, but I think you could have TP'd to that fight sooner, seeing that it wasn't their whole team that they had split off, and I think it would have been a nice boost for you to maybe end the streak gold or get some more assists out of it. So, yeah, again, that's one of those small things that...
No, that's probably one of the bigger holes in my game, is that when I play farming heroes like this, I really don't like TPing to fights unless I know we're going to win, which is obviously doesn't happen a lot of the time because you're 4 and they might be greater than 4. So I think I put my team at a disadvantage a lot of the time.
Well, that's an excellent point that you just made, and that's one of the toughest decisions to make as a carry while while we're usually AFK last hitting creeps is when do you go fight and when do you put yourself at risk but potentially like snowball and give yourself even bigger reward. I think in a game like this, like one of those skills that you need to make the decision is just evaluating the situation, right? Like what's going on, who's got what spells. The other is kind of the risk-reward factor. I think in a game like this, where your team is really struggling and they're kind of pushing you back, you might actually want to take that risk more often than not because you kind of need to turn things around. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of a if your team loses the fight anyway, you're not going to be able to go in and save them by yourself. But if you win the fight and you get more momentum out of it, then give your team a chance to get back in. Especially because I would say at this level, people tend to have a hard time breaking high ground efficiently and patiently. Like they won't just do it slowly and just use your spells patiently. They'll just try to rush up there and like chase for kills, and that presents a huge throw opportunity, right? Just a huge turnaround opportunity.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's happened to me way too many times.
I'm guilty of that myself too. It's just, I mean, that habit you will see into like upper 4K, 5K games even. People just, especially if they're doing well and they're just steamrolling, they'll just be like, whatever, no one can take me. And then a couple throws later, the game's just gone completely the other way.
Yeah.
So you do go for a Manta style here, which is pretty standard second item for Anti-Mage. Another decision I usually like to make after the treads is whether to go Vlad's or not. Did you consider Vlad's, or do you go that build sometimes?
I usually don't get Vlad's on Anti-Mage. I don't know, I just don't like it on him that much. I feel like it ends up transitioning into another slot later anyways.
Consider thyself purified.
So it kind of feels like a waste of gold to me. But I don't know if it's...
It was always real nice down there. You showed up in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So the argument I usually make for Vlad's, I like Vlad's. It's come to grow on me actually.
Yeah.
The reasons are twofold. One is you get a little bit more mana regen, which actually, as you notice now, you're kind of low on mana. Actually ends up being helpful in a game where there's like a lot of adversity and you're having trouble finding like safe places to farm, so you have to blink around a lot, and you're kind of like a nomadic anti-mage. So that actually adds up. The other thing about being a nomadic, a more nomadic playstyle by necessity is that if you have the Vlads, although you have the poor man shield, so you're not taking much damage, you can farm like ancient stacks, which are slightly more efficient and like gold efficient than just plain neutral stacks. As I like what you're doing right now, you're like ninja farming on their side of the map, so that takes away from their gold and increases yours. So I like that. It allows you to basically farm them for free, like you don't pay any health cost. And that ends up being important because if someone catches you in like ninja farming or farming your side of the map where it's not safe, they could kill you if you're low, but if you have a Vlad's, you're basically never going to be low. So,
I see, I see.
Yeah, I think there's pretty good utility from that. It's a cheap item. Also, you mentioned replacing it as a slot. I'll often keep it as the 6th slot or replace it only when it becomes the 6th slot because you have a heart usually as anti-mage, right? So that's like your health pool, but you have no way of getting health back, and for a hero that attacks pretty frequently and it does like pretty good, it's not bad to have some lifesteal on him, especially if you're going to be fighting against heroes that you kind of have to man fight. Like we're talking about like DK and Drow, who are just going to like right click you and you're going to right click them, ideally. So you might actually want that extra armor and the lifesteal for those situations.
So I come back to this fight because losing rocks is obviously not good.
Tower is under attack.
Yeah.
And it doesn't... I don't think we win.
So you guys are in a pretty tough position here. This might be the hardest decision to make, and it might be a decision again that'll get you flamed pretty hard by your teammates, but sometimes, and I've seen this from like higher level games, sometimes you have to give up Raxes even. In this situation they have Drow, and that aura applies to DK, so they have a very tanky, like very strong, what I'd call death ball lineup.
Right.
So I think even with just a Manta style, especially because your item progression was slowed down by the lane phase, I don't think you can fight them. And what ends up happening is basically you TP'd back there and like there wasn't even a fight to be had because they just quickly blew up your supports and took your Raxes. So in that case, I would actually keep split pushing. First, you can just tell your team, although it's hard for them to stomach this, which is like don't die, just give up the Raxes, because the team probably isn't going to just transition to like another push. They're going to be content with that lane. And also, like, obviously, if you look at this in hindsight, the trade-off between just losing your Raxes versus losing heroes, farm time, and Raxes, obviously, you'd rather just lose the Raxes if you're going to lose them anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So, it's hard for teams to accept losing Raxes, but I've actually seen a game where, I think it was Merlini and his friends, they were playing, he and Fogg were in a stack, and they actually gave up, he was playing the Phantom Lancer, and they actually gave up Mega Creeps to a Lycan. Like, they didn't contest 3 whole lanes of Raxes, and they still came back and won that game because he needed to farm his Radiance so that he could start pushing the lanes out. So, like, that's just an extreme example of the patience that some people have, knowing that if we feed them, they'll just take our Raxes and throw us. But if we just give them the Raxes while we get something else in return, then we might have a chance. So that's like, I don't expect a pub team to make cohesive decisions like that, but that's just an example of the risk reward and like the trade-off.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
So do you talk to your teammates at all? You seem to have some toxic allies in this one.
Not in voice chat.
Top tower is under attack.
I try to be positive in text chat. It doesn't always work.
Somebody
Okay, so that's a common theme because I've had someone else on this in an episode who also said that he tends to just mute people and not talk to them. Or
Yeah.
just not use. Yeah.
No, I only mute people if it gets really bad. Like this Doom I wasn't having any of this Doom. I mean, I guess it was my fault that I got the courier killed. But
You can kind of tell with people sometimes, like, this guy's got all caps, Leroy Jenkins, like, this guy's... if I were to bet on whether this guy's going to be a mannered player or not, I'd probably bet on no, right?
yeah, for sure.
Of course, there's some stereotypes, you know, like, you get, like, the Peruvian guy, or you get a bunch of people speaking Russian or Spanish, and it's just like, oh, man, I'm in for a long day, I'm not going to be able to talk to these guys.
It's gonna be rough.
Sometimes they play for, like... They seem to be playing for shits and giggles, like they like the animations and colors or something, because they're not trying to like win. Yeah, there's a whole other like game within the game of dealing with teammates and frustration, and I like the approach that you've taken, which is basically to try and remain positive and not to be a part of the problem, even if you can't be the solution.
Radiant's top
Yeah.
tower is under attack.
It gets hard. Let me tell you.
So I like the decision here. You kind of didn't know where they were, but once you saw that they were rushing, you immediately made that decision to go split push. Yeah, and then you force them to TP react. So basically, that's your only way back into this game. You're down a set of Raxes. You basically have to force them to not push as long as possible. At this level, you'll see, like, so part of the reason that I said before when you TP back to the mid fight that you should probably split push and give it up is because sometimes they'll do something really stupid and they'll just like break off and be like, oh, we have to defend top, because at that point you were already pressuring the T2 and you might have been able to, if they took too long, trade off almost a base tower, you know?
Yeah.
And that forces, that puts them, like, that takes the initiative and that forces them to make the decision, and usually forcing opponents into making split defense, split push decisions kind of just makes things harder and leads to mistakes. Go on, what were you saying?
Well, I was gonna say that like that's something that I've been trying to do better with the whole split push thing.
Well, here's what looks like a pretty good fight for you guys. It's kind of a 5-on-3, and this is... The throws are real, man. This is the kind of throws I was talking about here.
Yeah. Easy game.
Haste.
What are you going
if
next?
I could
for
I
next
was
here?
gonna, sorry, I was gonna say if I could critique myself, I would say that I used my mana break really early
Radiant's middle tower is
Yeah.
on the Bane, which probably wasn't necessary. We won the fight anyway, so in the end it didn't matter, but
Yeah, that guy
in
was
a different
was,
fight, it
doomed
might have been a
anyway, and I don't know.
deal.
I think he still had a lot of mana because I think he got doomed early, so he didn't like use a whole lot. But yeah, that's just something that you get better with mechanically, just like checking the mana that your opponents have. You guys are going for a counter push here. I sense a throw coming.
Radiant's fireproof. Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
I don't remember what happens here.
Because you guys can safely get this tower.
I think we get it, yeah.
Has fallen.
Okay.
So I saw they were all about to respawn, so that's my cue to get out of here.
All right. So yeah, that's good. There wasn't the throw I expected. I was expecting some kind
A
of
high
angry
ground
pings,
push?
angry pings from the Doom. Be like, we have to go now or something, and then just a team wipe. All right, so yeah, that's good. I mean, you're doing some really good things right now. You're being aware of the timers and your reaction to them. You're going to deprive them of farm and get some yourself by stealing their jungle. Looks like, did you buy a Reaver? You're about to complete your heart?
Yep, the Reaver and Vit booster are on the courier, I think. So I just
Okay.
need the recipe now.
So a couple things I want to point out here. I think heart is the right choice because obviously you need that HP pool, which becomes more effective with what your hero does. You need it to
Right.
survive the burst. A couple things. One, you might want to be wary in the situation of saving for buyback.
Buyback.
Yeah. But almost not really because again, if you die and your whole team dies and you buy back, you're not stopping all of them by yourself.
Exactly.
The other thing that I would do is, although you're close to finishing your heart and it's good to have completed items, I would probably have gone for a casual talisman of evasion this game.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I was
yeah.
torn this game between going for a heart and butterfly. Which one to go first? I was thinking that a heart would be better because of Necrophos ults. So it would take longer to get to the threshold where it's like an
Dire's
insta-kill.
top tower is
But,
under attack.
I mean, looking back, there's like the Dragon Knight right clicks and the Drow right clicks that are really scary too. So I wasn't sure which route to go.
Yeah, I think that's a tough choice that people have to make. I think in this case, I would probably go heart, and I think the ideal team fight for you is actually if you go in with that heart and like tank a silence or some spells, not necessarily grip, and then that allows your allies to set up and not die instantly.
Blaze here.
So I think heart's a good decision here. I might have just gotten the casual talisman because you have so much right-click damage from 3 range heroes with the Drow ult, plus the Dragon Knight gets the Drow precision aura bonus. So
Yeah, I go down here. I just get stunned and killed.
Never could.
yeah, and there's the spells coming out from your
Exactly for
allies
the
are
arrow fired
coming
has
out pretty
fallen.
slowly. I mean, the disables and the doom all came out pretty late there. So
Yeah, well.
Double kill.
although you guys did end godlike streak.
My hands are tied.
So yeah,
Yes.
not having a buyback here, and more importantly, you didn't actually have the Reaver or the components on yourself when that fight
Yeah.
happened. So I think
I just noticed that now. I don't know how that happened.
Is under attack.
you probably sent the courier, but somebody else flew it back because it was unsafe or something.
And
like
then I forgot about it, probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Their structures.
Dire's top
Um,
barracks are under attack.
So yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Like not having the item. Obviously, that's like the double whammy, right? Because you didn't have the buyback or the items that you paid and saved up for. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been enough to turn the fight, but again, I think that you being in front and tanking some damage so that your allies can get in there safely is a good way to go about it. So I think that might have made a difference there. And like every small detail matters in a game where you're basically fighting for your life.
Dire's top barracks
Stay
are
alive.
under attack.
Yeah.
To ashes.
So I consider that a pretty decent hold. We only lost one.
Dire's top barracks are
Building.
under attack.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse.
Got down the Aegis, you forced them back, you only lost 1 melee Rex. Given how the beginning of the fight went, I think that's it's about as much as you could ask for. I'd probably sell the shield at this point just to make sure that I finish the heart immediately. But
Okay.
that's kind of a really minor thing. So your team's in a lot of trouble, and you're probably going to need to apply a ton of pressure yourself to keep the game from getting out of hand. Is that what you're going to do here? Look to split push bottom?
I hope so. Looking at the map, I can see probably the right decision. But I think I just go to their jungle, though. I don't think I press the tower.
Okay. A couple things to be aware of here. I think with your Manta, you're less worried about the clockwork and the Drow silence because you have an escape out of it, so you could probably approach the waves a bit more aggressively. The only thing I have to worry about, because the Dragon Knight's probably not going to go blink, is if the Bane gets some kind of mobility item, which you can see here through the map that he doesn't have, which means that you should be able to, if you position yourself, depending on where you are in the wave, like if you position yourself on the bottom half of the wave where he would have to come from beneath you to get the jump on you, but otherwise you could react, then
Pots.
basically ensure that the Bane's not going to be able to grip you. And if you
Right.
position yourself very close to the creeps while you're farming it, you can basically ensure that the Clockwork's not going to hook you either, or like hit you immediately with this hook. So those are just small things you can do to avoid the potential of getting picked off. And I think you could play a little more aggressively too, knowing that the Bane doesn't have a mobility item, because he's not going to be able to get the jump on you unless you react super slow.
Okay,
Um,
I see.
So it's just things that like maximize your survival and maximize your annoyance to the other team. Because your best case scenario is that all the waves on your team are pushed out, so they have to show themselves and they can't push. Worst case scenario is obviously if you overfarm the jungle, and they don't feel any pressure on their lane, so they could just gather and death ball, and then it's too late to begin applying pressure if they're like already on your side of the map pushing.
Right.
So are you going? I take it you're going butterfly now.
Yep. Spoiler alert, I never finish it.
It looks like there's only a few minutes left in this game, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Looks like they're gonna. Oh,
take a look
sorry,
at the
go
gold
ahead.
graph. It's actually not that big of a gold difference. It's only about 7,000 gold, even though you guys are down to racks. So I was surprised to see that. I guess with your split farming and the Doom's Devour. So this is another situation where you can see, based on your map vision, that they're doing Roche. It looks like. Are you guys about to contest this?
Yeah. So, what happened? My friend told me later that was a mistake using the Manta right there to try to keep the wave pushed out. So like, I ended up trying to go for the steal because we have the TA traps.
Uh huh.
But what happens is, I don't know if you can see, but Bane comes around and
Roshan has fallen to
he
the
grips me.
Radiant.
And
So you don't have the Manta now, basically.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, you just barely died there.
Yeah, I know.
Double kill.
It was
Yeah,
was
in
it
hindsight-
Heartstopper? Was it Heartstopper Aura that killed me? I think
see.
it might have been.
I think it was because the Necrophos got the kill. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
That sucks.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, the Manta might have helped you escape from that.
Yeah.
But I
Dire's
think that's.
bottom tower
I mean,
has
I'm not gonna
fallen.
say that that's really a mistake, because the mistake is like you're making decisions based on the best information you have at the time, not necessarily in hindsight. So I don't think it was too bad. I think it was a good thought to keep the waves out of your base, and using your Manta to do that. Although I don't know if your Manta illusions did enough damage to really
Dire's middle tower
be able to stop them.
has
But
fallen.
yeah, Manta is in a game where you're expecting to take a fight like that. I'm not sure if I agree with the decision to contest Roche in general. Then yeah, you're gonna want to keep your Manta up because it's your safety valve and it allows you to do a ton more damage.
Right.
So I think this is a pretty instructive game. I like your attitude and approach towards the game and towards improving, and I think you, for the most part, played pretty well. Just some minor details that could have gotten the snowball started sooner, and some things to pay attention to, like enemy hero mana pools, when to split push, when to apply pressure and stuff, when to draw them out and force them to reveal themselves. So I hope
yep.
you learned from this game, and I'd be happy to do more of these with you in the future.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks for doing it. I think I definitely learned a lot. And I'll try to play Anti-Mage at some point later and over the weekend and try to apply these things. And hopefully I win.
All right, awesome. So that's it